Ladies and gentlemen, imagine, if you will, the arrival of spring. After a long, cold winter, the air begins to shift. The once barren trees burst forth with buds, flowers bloom in colorful defiance of the gray, and the earth itself seems to stir, waking from a deep slumber. And now, envision the arrival of a woman walking into a room, her presence like the first breath of spring, full of warmth, life, and possibility. Spring is not just a change in the weather, it is a profound symbol of transformation and renewal, a yearly reminder that life in all its aspects is in constant motion. The Stoics recognize that change, much like the seasons, is an undeniable part of existence. It is the essence of life itself. What we learn from the coming of spring is that, while we cannot control the forces that shape our world, we can control our response to them. Just as the earth moves through its cycles, from the barren cold of winter to the fertile warmth of spring, so too does the human experience shift through periods of challenge, growth, and rejuvenation. The Stoic approach to change is one of acceptance and virtue. When the spring arrives, it brings new beginnings, new opportunities, and new possibilities. This is a truth that we, as human beings, must come to understand and embrace, not as something to be resisted, but as something to be welcomed. The first keynote, in its essence, is about embracing the natural rhythm of the world around us. Change is inevitable. It is as constant as the shifting of the seasons. To fight this change, to resist it, is to create unnecessary suffering. The Stoics teach us that it is not the event itself that causes us distress, but our reaction to it. If we resist change, if we cling to what is familiar and comfortable, we invite turmoil into our lives. But if we acknowledge change for what it is, part of the great order of things, we can move through it with grace and wisdom. Spring arrives in its own time, just as all things do. The buds do not force themselves to open, they unfold when the time is right. There is no rush, no anxiety, no need to control the timing. In the same way, we must learn to allow our lives to unfold as they will. We cannot dictate every moment, nor should we attempt to. The Stoic recognizes that the course of life is often unpredictable, and yet we must remain rooted in our virtues. The arrival of spring is a reminder that, while we may not control when the seasons change, we can control our attitude toward that change. At the core of Stoic thought is the idea that everything happens in accordance with nature. The world around us is governed by laws and principles far greater than our own understanding, and to fight against these natural forces is to go against the grain of existence itself. Spring, then, is a reminder that life will continue its cycles, and we are simply participants in this larger dance. To live well, we must align ourselves with nature's rhythm, accepting that change will come, and, instead of resisting it, preparing ourselves to adapt and grow through it. When spring arrives, it offers us an opportunity to renew ourselves. It calls us to step out of the darkness of winter, both literally and metaphorically. We are not bound by the past. We are not forever defined by the struggles or limitations of yesterday. The Stoics believed that the past cannot be changed, and the future is beyond our control. What we have is the present moment. Just as spring brings forth new life, we too can cultivate new beginnings, regardless of where we've been or what we've faced. Each moment is a chance to renew our commitment to virtue, to pursue wisdom, and to act with integrity. Spring also reminds us of the impermanence of all things, the beauty of the blossoms, the freshness of the air, the gentle warmth of the sun. They are fleeting. In a short time, the world will shift again, and spring will give way to summer. This fleeting nature of life is a central theme in Stoicism. We cannot hold on to the beauty of the moment forever, just as we cannot hold on to any moment in life indefinitely. Everything is in flux. This is not a source of despair, but a call to appreciate the present while we have it. The Stoic embraces the transient nature of life, understanding that it is through change that we are able to experience growth, renewal, and beauty. So, when spring arrives, it is not simply an external event. It is a call to embrace the larger truths of life. It teaches us about the inevitability of change, the need for acceptance, and the power of our response. It is a reminder that we must live in harmony with nature, adapt to the flow of time, and above all, find peace in the ever-changing cycles of existence. To live with the wisdom of the Stoics is to recognize that change, like the arrival of spring, is an opportunity, not a threat. It is a chance for growth, renewal, and a deeper understanding of the world and ourselves. In this acceptance of change, we find our peace. Emotional resilience is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. It is the ability to maintain inner peace and clarity despite external circumstances, and this concept can be beautifully illustrated through the metaphor of springtime's arrival. When spring comes, it brings with it both beauty and unpredictability. The warmth, the blooms, the scents, all of it fills the senses with pleasure. But at the same time, spring is often a time of transitions, where the remnants of winter's chill might still linger in the air, where storms might rage, or where the fragile blossoms of new life might be disturbed by unexpected weather. Such is the nature of the world, ever-changing, ever in flux. We cannot control the storms or the sudden gusts of wind, but we can control how we respond to them. The Stoics taught that it is not our external circumstances that define us, but our reactions to them. In a world full of unpredictability, emotional resilience becomes essential. When she walks in like springtime, bringing warmth, joy, and life into a room, we feel the stirrings of emotion, perhaps happiness, perhaps awe, or perhaps even desire. These emotions are natural, and the Stoics do not advocate suppressing them. What they do suggest is that we must cultivate the ability to process these emotions without allowing them to dominate or control us. Consider, for instance, how we may feel when we encounter beauty, whether in nature, in a person, or in an experience. There is an immediate impulse to grasp it, to cling to it, to allow it to define us, to seek permanence in what is fleeting. The Stoic, however, understands that to give into this impulse is to place our peace in the hands of the external world. The presence of beauty should not overwhelm us, nor should we fall victim to desire or attachment. Instead, the Stoic sees beauty as something to be appreciated and admired, but not possessed. She may walk into the room like spring, but we remain grounded, aware that the nature of beauty, like the seasons, is impermanent. If we attach ourselves to it too strongly, we set ourselves up for disappointment when it fades or changes. Emotional resilience, then, is about allowing the beauty of the moment to enrich our lives without letting it disturb our inner calm. Emotional resilience is also a skill that requires practice. It's not something that happens automatically. The Stoics believed in the power of training the mind, just as one would train the body for strength. To build emotional resilience, one must practice self-awareness, recognizing when emotions arise, acknowledging them without judgment, and then choosing how to respond. For instance, if the arrival of spring stirs within us feelings of joy or excitement, we can let ourselves enjoy these feelings, but we must also be vigilant not to let them grow into something more, such as attachment or expectation. The Stoic asks, can I appreciate this moment fully without allowing it to take root in my heart and demand more than it can give? The answer, ideally, is yes. We can savor the moment, but we do so with the awareness that it is fleeting and that our true peace comes not from the moment itself, but from our ability to stay centered in it. Moreover, The Stoic approach to emotional resilience teaches us to accept the fact that emotions, like all things, are transient. When we feel sadness, frustration, or disappointment, these emotions too are passing. Just as spring brings both sunshine and rain, so do our lives present moments of both light and shadow. It is not the emotions themselves that define us, but how we manage them. By accepting that we cannot always control our feelings, but we can control our response to them, we free ourselves from emotional turmoil. The storms of life may come, just as they come in spring, but they do not have to uproot us if we learn to weather them with grace. Emotional resilience, in the Stoic sense, is about being rooted like a tree that bends in the wind but does not break. It is about acknowledging the seasons of our lives, the moments of joy, the moments of sorrow, and accepting them with equal measure. When she enters the room like springtime, we do not lose ourselves in the warmth of her presence, nor do we withdraw in fear that the beauty will fade. Instead, we allow ourselves to experience her presence fully, with a heart that remains unshaken, rooted in the knowledge that all things are temporary. In this way, emotional resilience becomes a practice of balance, of embracing joy without clinging to it, of meeting pain without letting it define us. Through cultivating this inner strength, we are not diminished by the world's fluctuations, but instead grow in wisdom, clarity, and peace. Emotional resilience allows us to move through life not as victims of circumstance, but as masters of our own reactions. In this way, the arrival of spring, much like the arrival of any new opportunity or challenge, becomes not just a moment to celebrate, but a chance to strengthen the very foundation of our inner lives. In the Stoic world, beauty, whether external or internal, is something to be appreciated and observed without allowing it to disrupt our inner peace. The arrival of spring, with all its vibrancy, warmth, and new life, serves as a perfect metaphor for this. It is a time when the world around us seems to come alive, when flowers bloom, the air is fresh, and the sun offers its gentle touch after a long, cold winter. The beauty of spring is undeniable, but the Stoic lesson is clear. While we can admire and appreciate beauty, it must not be the source of our happiness or peace. The Stoic perspective on beauty does not involve rejecting it or distancing oneself from it. Rather, it asks us to recognize the impermanence of all things. Just as the flowers of spring will eventually fade, and the warmth of the sun will give way to the cooler days of autumn, so too is every external source of joy temporary. In this recognition lies the key to emotional balance. The Stoic seeks to appreciate beauty in its moment without becoming attached to it or allowing it to define their sense of self. This is the essence of inner peace, the ability to see the beauty of spring without feeling the need to possess it, to hold on to it, or to let it dictate our emotions. When she walks in like springtime, bringing with her a warmth and beauty that fills the room, the Stoic response is one of quiet appreciation. There is no rush to claim or possess this beauty. The Stoic does not see her presence as something that will complete them or provide lasting satisfaction. Instead, they recognize her as part of the natural ebb and flow of life, as beautiful and fleeting as the season itself. Beauty, like the spring, is a gift. And just as we accept the arrival of spring without expecting it to last forever, so too should we accept the beauty that enters our lives with a similar sense of gratitude and understanding. There is a profound lesson here about the nature of beauty and how it interacts with our sense of self. If we allow beauty to become the source of our happiness, then we are placing our contentment in something beyond our control. External beauty, whether in nature, in other people, or in our circumstances, can bring moments of joy, but it is not a permanent or reliable source of peace. Beauty is like the spring. It arrives, it flourishes, and it fades, all in its time. To tie our sense of well-being to something so transient is to invite constant disappointment. The Stoic teaches us to cultivate an inner beauty, one that is not dependent on external circumstances. This inner beauty, grounded in virtue, wisdom, and self-mastery, can endure regardless of the changing seasons of our lives. Moreover, the Stoic reminds us that true beauty lies not in the external, but in how we respond to the world. Spring may bring flowers, warmth, and new growth, but it is the Stoics' inner peace, rooted in their philosophy and virtues, that allows them to truly appreciate what the season has to offer. The same holds true for human relationships. When she enters like spring, bringing beauty into our lives, the Stoic does not look to her to fulfill some deep, unmet need. Instead, they appreciate her for who she is, without the desire to change her or possess her. True appreciation in this context is rooted in respect for her as she is, not as we wish her to be. The Stoics' approach to beauty also teaches us to avoid the trap of comparison. The beauty of spring is unique in its own way, and the same can be said for every individual we encounter. When we embrace beauty without comparison or judgment, we free ourselves from the cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. We are able to experience beauty fully without letting it create feelings of inadequacy or longing. By recognizing that beauty is fleeting and beyond our control, we can enjoy it without allowing it to disrupt our tranquility. Whether it's the blooming of a flower or the presence of another person, beauty is simply an aspect of life, a moment to be appreciated, not a treasure to possess. This acceptance of beauty in its fleeting nature is a powerful practice in detachment. To appreciate the spring without trying to hold it in place is to acknowledge that all things must pass, and that peace comes not from holding on, but from letting go. Just as we can admire the beauty of a flower, but must eventually let it fade, so too must we appreciate the beauty in our lives without trying to anchor ourselves to it. In this way, the Stoics' response to the beauty of spring and to the beauty of life itself is one of presence, gratitude, and understanding. It is a reminder that beauty, like the seasons, is a gift that arrives and departs, but that true peace comes from our ability to remain grounded and composed, regardless of what is blooming or fading in the world around us. By cultivating this inner peace, we can appreciate beauty fully, while remaining undisturbed by its impermanence. In the Stoic tradition, there is a profound emphasis on the importance of being present in the moment, fully engaged with the world as it is, without becoming lost in the past or the future. The arrival of spring is a perfect example of this idea. Spring does not announce itself with fanfare or seek our approval. It simply arrives with no force, no resistance, and no expectation. It is in this quiet inevitability that we see a key Stoic lesson. Life unfolds according to its own natural rhythms, and our role is to accept and experience it as it comes, without distraction or anxiety. When she enters, much like springtime, we are called to respond not with impatience or longing, but with presence. In a world full of distractions, the Stoic practice is to ground ourselves in the here and now, allowing us to fully experience whatever beauty, joy, or hardship is present in the moment. When spring arrives, there is no need to rush to enjoy it or to fret over how long it will last. We simply step into it, breathe it in, and let it fill us with appreciation. There is wisdom in the quiet unfolding of life, in the recognition that everything comes to us in its own time. Similarly, when she walks into the room like the first signs of spring, there is no need to overwhelm ourselves with fantasies or anxieties about what this moment may lead to or what it might mean in the future. The Stoic would urge us to embrace her presence for what it is, a moment of beauty, a fleeting encounter in the river of time. We may be tempted to project our desires or fears onto her, but the true Stoic response is to be present with her exactly as she is, without expectations and without attachment to what may come. This is not to say that we should be indifferent, but rather that we should engage with the present moment with clarity and acceptance, allowing it to unfold naturally. In the Stoic mindset, there is a deep understanding that the only time we truly have is now. The past is gone and the future is uncertain. To spend our time lost in regrets over what has passed or anxieties about what may come is to squander the precious moments that we have. The arrival of spring is a reminder of this truth. It asks us to be present, to step into the fullness of the moment, rather than waiting for something else to arrive or dwelling on what has already left. Spring does not linger on the cold days of winter, and it does not rush toward the heat of summer. It simply exists in its own time, inviting us to experience its beauty without looking ahead or behind. Being present also means accepting the impermanence of the moment. Just as spring arrives and fades away in its own time, so too will all the moments of our lives come and go. In embracing the present moment, we also embrace the truth that nothing is permanent, and that this very transience is what makes each moment meaningful. If we try to hold on to any one moment, whether it's the arrival of spring or the entrance of her, we risk losing the beauty that comes with acceptance. To truly experience life, we must let it flow freely without trying to control or force it. The Stoic teaches us to accept the nature of things, to appreciate what is in front of us without clinging to it or trying to make it last. When we are present in the moment, we engage with the world without the baggage of past hurts or future anxieties clouding our vision. The flowers of spring bloom not because they are trying to impress us, but because it is their time to do so. Similarly, the Stoic understands that life unfolds in its own time, and the best way to experience it is with an open heart, without trying to control the outcome. The presence of her, like the coming of spring, is a fleeting gift. We should not seek to hold on to it or project our own desires onto it, but instead allow it to be what it is in the moment and enjoy it fully without expectation. In this way, the Stoic teaches us that the present moment is enough. We do not need to grasp at the future, nor should we dwell on the past. To truly live is to engage fully with the now as it comes to us, with gratitude and acceptance. The arrival of spring and the entrance of her are both opportunities to practice this art of presence. By doing so, we cultivate not only a deeper connection with the world around us, but also a greater sense of inner peace, rooted in the understanding that the present moment is all that we can truly control. It is in this space of presence that we find our freedom, unburdened by the weight of the past or the uncertainty of the future. In Stoic philosophy, love is often misunderstood. It is not seen as a fleeting passion or a force of uncontrollable desire, but as a powerful virtue grounded in rationality, respect, and mutual understanding. When we think of spring and the arrival of something or someone who embodies it, we are invited to consider love not as an emotional eruption, but as a conscious choice, a practice that can be cultivated. The Stoic view of love challenges our conventional ideas about affection and attachment, offering a more enduring and grounded perspective. The image of she, walking in like springtime, suggests a love that is not based on intense, consuming desire, but rather on appreciation and respect. When spring arrives, it does not demand our obsession or force us into dependency. It simply is offering its beauty freely without expectation. In the same way, love, in the Stoic sense, is not about clinging to another person or needing them to fulfill some inner lack. Instead, it is about recognizing the inherent value of another, appreciating their qualities and accepting them for who they are without trying to change them. It is love based on the virtue of the other, not on our need for validation or completeness. This kind of love allows us to engage deeply with others without the fear of attachment or the anxiety of loss. When she walks in like spring, we can appreciate her for the moment that she is present without projecting our hopes or desires onto her. The Stoic does not view love as a means to possess or control, but as an opportunity to respect, to appreciate, and to grow. The presence of another person, like the arrival of spring, is an opportunity for us to cultivate virtues such as gratitude, understanding, and equanimity. This approach to love involves a fundamental shift in perspective. Love, in the Stoic sense, is not about needing the other person to make us happy or complete. We are not dependent on them for our emotional well-being. Instead, we understand that the true source of happiness and peace lies within us. Love, then, becomes a practice of acceptance, of seeing the beauty in the other person without demanding anything in return. It is about choosing to care for and value someone without the need to possess them or manipulate the relationship for our own benefit. The Stoic philosopher recognizes that emotions like desire, jealousy, and fear of loss often arise when we mistakenly attach ourselves to external sources of happiness. The arrival of someone like spring may stir these emotions within us, feelings of longing, attraction, or even possessiveness. But the Stoic response is not to repress these emotions, but to observe them without being ruled by them. They understand that these feelings, while natural, are not the foundation of love. Love is rooted in the appreciation of another person's virtues, in the respect for their autonomy, and in the understanding that true connection does not come from control, but from mutual recognition. Moreover, the Stoic approach to love teaches us that love should not be a source of suffering or turmoil. While it is easy to become consumed by feelings of infatuation or passion, the Stoic encourages us to maintain our emotional equilibrium. Love, when it is rooted in virtue and respect, does not lead to emotional volatility. Just as spring brings a gentle renewal without overwhelming us, love should offer us the same gentle, grounding force. It should not stir up chaos or fear, but rather foster peace and harmony. By recognizing love as a virtue and a conscious choice, we begin to see it not as something to be pursued or desired, but as something to be cultivated and nurtured through wisdom and understanding. The Stoics also recognize that love is not solely an emotion that we feel for others. It is a broader practice extending to all of humanity. Loving others in this sense is an extension of our duty to practice virtue and to contribute positively to the world. The Stoic practice of love, then, is not limited to romantic attachment, but also includes love for our family, our friends, and even those with whom we have no close relationship. It is a love that sees the inherent worth in all people and works toward their well-being, not out of attachment or need, but out of a sense of duty to the greater good. When we speak of love in the context of spring, we are reminded that love is not about control or possession, but about appreciation, respect, and presence. Love, like the arrival of spring, is a gift that we can choose to receive and share, but it is never something that we can possess or hold onto forever. It is fleeting, it is transient, and it is to be cherished as such. True love is rooted not in what we get from another person, but in what we offer to them: respect, care, and a recognition of their inherent worth. In this sense, love becomes a practice of freedom. It is not something that binds us in fear or expectation, but something that allows us to grow and to connect with others in a way that is peaceful and harmonious. When she walks in like springtime, we can embrace her with an open heart, free from attachment and fear, appreciating the moment for what it is: beautiful, fleeting, and full of potential. And in this space, we are not diminished, but enriched. Through love, we learn to live fully with open hearts and minds, grounded in the wisdom of the present moment. The Stoic principle of virtue is the foundation upon which a fulfilling life is built. It is the measure of our character, the lens through which we view our actions and decisions. When we speak of someone walking in like spring, it evokes not just the beauty or the warmth that she brings, but the idea of grace, presence, and integrity. In the same way that spring breathes life into the world, virtue is what breathes life into our souls, transforming us from mere passive observers of life to active participants in it. It is through virtue that we cultivate the inner strength to navigate the ebbs and flows of life with wisdom, equanimity, and purpose. The Stoics understood that virtue is not something that happens passively. It is a constant practice, an active choice that we make every day in how we respond to the world around us. When she enters the room like spring, bringing with her an air of freshness and renewal, it is not merely her beauty or presence that should catch our attention, but the virtue she embodies in that moment. Her walk into the room is an invitation to reflect on the kind of virtue we embody. It calls us to examine how we meet the world, whether we approach it with kindness, wisdom, and fairness, or whether we succumb to the vices of anger, pride, or indifference. Virtue, in the Stoic sense, is a commitment to living in accordance with reason, to aligning our actions with what is morally good and just, regardless of the external circumstances. It is about understanding what is within our control and what is not, and focusing our energy on the former. When faced with the unpredictability of life, whether the arrival of spring or the presence of another person, we are called to respond with virtue, making choices based on wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues do not come naturally. They must be cultivated through conscious effort and reflection. Much like how spring gradually overtakes winter's chill, virtue replaces the turbulence of unchecked emotion with calm, deliberate action. When we witness someone walk into our lives like spring, it serves as a reminder of the potential within us to live virtuously. It is not a question of how we feel in the moment, but how we choose to act within that moment. Do we approach the beauty of life with gratitude, appreciating the fleeting nature of its gifts? Do we act with fairness and compassion when we are faced with challenges? Just as spring's renewal is a product of natural laws, our virtue is cultivated by the consistent application of Stoic principles. Each moment is an opportunity for us to choose virtue over vice, and each interaction with others is a chance to reflect that inner strength outwardly. The idea of virtue in Stoicism is deeply tied to the concept of living in harmony with nature. Nature's cycles, just like the seasons, remind us that everything has its time and place. Spring, in its arrival, does not struggle or force its way into being. It simply is, in accordance with the greater order of things. Similarly, when we live virtuously, we align ourselves with the natural order of the world. We accept the world as it is, with all of its imperfections and challenges, and seek to contribute positively to it. Virtue does not seek to control the uncontrollable or to resist what is inevitable, but instead, it embraces what can be controlled: our thoughts, actions, and responses. In this sense, virtue is also about adaptability. Just as spring must give way to summer and summer to autumn, we too must be able to adapt to the changes that life brings. The Stoics' commitment to virtue does not mean resisting change, but rather embracing it with an open heart. knowing that each season, each challenge, brings with it the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to live with greater wisdom. It is in this process of constant adaptation that virtue finds its true expression. By facing adversity with courage, by acting justly in difficult situations, and by maintaining inner peace through whatever storms may arise, we embody the very essence of virtue that Stoicism espouses. Living virtuously is not about grand gestures or dramatic actions. It is about the small, consistent decisions we make every day. It is in how we treat others, how we respond to challenges, how we manage our desires and fears. These daily practices of virtue are like the steady, quiet growth of the spring flowers, unnoticed by many, but powerful in their ability to transform the world around us. When we walk through life with virtue, we are not merely waiting for spring to come, we are embodying spring in every step we take. In the presence of others, like the woman who walks into the room with the grace of spring, we are called to reflect our own virtue. How do we engage with others? Do we approach them with respect, kindness, and understanding, or do we let our impulses or prejudices dictate our actions? Stoicism teaches us that virtue is not only personal, but relational. It is how we treat others and how we contribute to the well-being of the community. Like the seasons, our actions have an impact on the world around us, and the more we live with virtue, the more we shape the world into a place of greater peace, justice, and harmony. Thus, when we speak of someone walking in like spring, we are reminded of the power of virtue to shape our lives and the lives of those around us. Virtue is not just an abstract concept, it is a lived reality, one that we embody with every choice we make. By cultivating it, we become like the spring, bringing light, growth, and renewal into the world, regardless of the external circumstances we may face. It is through virtue that we find true freedom and peace, and it is through virtue that we can make the world a better, more just, and more harmonious place. In conclusion, the journey through Stoic philosophy, as illustrated by the metaphor of "she walked in like springtime," teaches us profound lessons on how to live with grace, emotional resilience, and purpose. Like spring, which arrives with quiet inevitability and gentle beauty, we too are called to embrace life's fleeting moments with presence, wisdom, and appreciation. We learn that emotional resilience is not about denying our feelings, but about responding to them with clarity and control. The beauty of life, like the arrival of spring, is to be appreciated without attachment, while love is a virtue that arises from respect, choice, and understanding rather than possession or desire. The Stoic approach teaches us that virtue is the foundation upon which a flourishing life is built. It is through cultivating virtue, through wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, that we align ourselves with the natural flow of life, finding peace and fulfillment no matter what the external circumstances may bring. We are reminded to live not in anticipation of what might come, but in full acceptance of the present, appreciating the beauty of each season as it arrives, knowing that each moment is an opportunity to grow, learn, and embody our highest values. When she walks in like springtime, we are invited not only to admire her beauty, but to reflect on how we can embody that same grace and presence in our own lives. The Stoic ideal is not one of passive observation but active participation in life, where each interaction, each choice, and each moment is an opportunity to practice virtue and align ourselves with the flow of nature. In the end, the Stoic perspective asks us to live with an open heart and a grounded mind, embracing both the joys and challenges that life offers, knowing that true peace and fulfillment come not from external circumstances, but from within. Like spring, we too can bring warmth, growth, and renewal into the world around us, becoming a living embodiment of virtue and wisdom, as we navigate the seasons of our lives.